It's your boy Osas, and in today's episode, we are going to continue with our chat room messages pagination. And the last episode, we had this nice pull down, to paginate for older messages logic, and it seems to be working great so far. In today's episode, I would like for us to extend that a little further and add a couple of nice logic to it that allows the user to be able to know when there's actually more messages to be paginated. So on the right simulator right here, the one in the dark mode, that's the completed version of our project. And one thing you would notice is when you get close to the top of your messages, it has this pull down HUD view that shows up, and it's essentially just you can think of it as a nudge or as a prompt that's nudging the user to actually pull down to get the older messages. And as you can see, when you're at the bottom, it doesn't show up, and then when you get to the top, this HUD view sort of pops up. So I want us to have this logic today. Something else that I want us to add is in the current state of our project right here, the one in the light mode, if we actually go right ahead and send a new message, you're going to notice we actually don't get that message, and I'm going to explain why that is. It's because we're no longer listening to the active state or the most recent version of messages in our channel. So we're going to go right ahead and fix those. So let's jump right into Xcode and get started for the day. So I'm going to jump right into our messages list controller, and I'm going to go right ahead and create this beautiful, like I said, this beautiful HUD view. I don't know what to call it, that actually lets the user know, to pull down. And we're going to be using a UI kit button, and I'm going to show you what we need to do. So I'm going to scroll all the way up here, and just right below our background image view, let us go right ahead and create a button that's going to show up to let a user know that there's actually more messages to be paginated. So I'm going to create a pull down HUD view. I think that's a good name. Yeah. And this pull down HUD view is just going to be a UI button. Let's see. We're going to create an anonymous closure, and I'm going to use the latest button configuration setup that I believe came out in like iOS 16 for UI kit. And the first thing I want to do is actually just create a button configuration. So I'm going to say button config is going to be of UI button. And again, this is just basically UI kit boilerplate code. We're trying to create that button, and I'm going to make it filled. And I'm going to create an image configuration as well. And let's see, the image configuration is going to be UI image dot symbol configuration, and it's going to look for the one that has the point size and the weight, and the point size is going to be 10, the weight is going to be black, and we're going to go right ahead and actually create our image. So the image is going to be a UI image, and I'm just going to use a system UI image. I'm going to say system name, and the system name is going to be Command Shift and L. I'm going to look up on SF symbol. What I'm looking for is arrow.up.circle. So I'm looking for this beautiful bad boy right here, and I'm going to paste that into our system name parameter. And I'm also going to ask for the configuration because I want to use this image configuration that we just created up here. So pass that right in there. Now let's go right ahead and style our button. So I'm going to say button configuration. The image is this image that we just created. And I'm also going to say button configuration, the background. Let's see, what do we want? We want base background color. Let's make the base background color bubble green because it looks like that's what we have in the completed version of our project. Okay. And what else do we want? So I'm going to also add a foreground color, and I want the button, the foreground color, base foreground color. Let's give it something like WhatsApp black. Remember, the WhatsApp black is dynamic. It responds to dark mode and light mode. And I'm going to say button, let's see, the image padding. Let's give it a nice image padding of like 5, so it can distance itself from the text. And I'm going to say button, the corner style. Let's make it a capsule. And let me just exit out of our Xcode so I can see what the completed version of this HUD looks like. And as you can see, yep, so it's a capsule. We have a text and we have a button. And I'm going to go right ahead and actually create the text. Before I do that, let me create a font. And I'm going to use a UI font, the system font of size 12. And let us make the weight black. And what else do we want? I'm going to do button dot attributed title. Okay. And I'm going to do attributed title, attributed string. And this is going to take in, let's see, what do we want? So we want to pass in a string in here. And the string right now, we're just going to pass in pull down. And again, this is the pull down text right here in the completed version of our project. So we have pull down, and let's pass in the attributes parameter for attributed string. And what do we want for attributes? Well, I would like for us to have a unique font. So I'm just going to say attribute container, and I'm going to go ahead and open that bad boy. And I'm going to give it a key value pair of NS attributed string dot key. I believe that's what we're looking for, and fonts. And let's pass in the fonts that we just created right here, this UI system fonts of weight black, because that looks like a pretty, bolded font. And what else do we want? Well, let's go right ahead and actually create our UI button now. So that was just our button configuration. So I'm going to say let button. I'm going to expand Xcode all the way, create a little bit of spacing so we see what we're working with. And let's go ahead and create our button. And I'm just going to create a UI button with configuration. And the configuration is going to be the button configuration that we just declared right up here. So again, I'm using the latest iOS, I think it was iOS 16 that this came out, this UI kit style of buttons. And what do we want? Let us, of course, set up translate auto masking for auto constraints. And what else do we want? And I think that is good for now. Let's just go right ahead and return our button and close off our anonymous closure. So this basically just declared our, pull Actually, we should just call it pull down, not pull to down. Pull down HUD view. And the pull down HUD view, we need to add it to our sub view, like we did with the messages collection view and the background image. This is just UI kit nomenclature. So we're going to do view.add sub view. This adds it into our our sub view. We're going to say pull down HUD view, and let's go right ahead and actually anchor it, which means to position it in the screen. So I'm going to say pull down HUD view with auto constraints, of course. I'm going to say the top anchor should be constrained to our, let's see, constraint equals to view.top anchor. And what else do I want? Actually, I want to do view.saveLayoutGuide, the top anchor, and let's give it a spacing of like 10, because as you can see in the completed version of the project, there looks to be a little spacing between this pull down and the actual top of our screen. So give it a spacing of 10. What do we need in this bad boy? We need to add a center, because as you can see, it's just centered across the horizontal axis. So let us center it across the x-axis. We're just going to do pull down odd view. That center x anchor is going to be constraint equals to view.center x anchor. If you're familiar with UIKit and auto layouts, I'm sure this is very easy. But if you're not, if you're just a UIKit developer, all we're doing is we're taking this HUD view that we just created, which is this little capsule right here, right? And we're just injecting that HUD view into our screen and positioning it on our screen. And so with that done now, let's actually go right ahead and run our project, and let's see what our HUD view actually looks like on the simulator. And to be frank with you, we could have used the preview for this as well, but the simulator is up and running, so it's all good. And let's wait for that bad boy to boot up. Come on. Sometimes it just takes forever to get the simulator. All right, we are back. Let's go into our channel. And look at that. We have our HUD view, as you see, right? It just says pull down. And let's go into a, that's perfect, guys. Look at that. Okay, that looks awesome. So with our HUD view set up, right, what do we need to do next? As you can see in the completed version of the project, again, this simulator in the dark mode, when we actually scroll down, we're not at the top when the scroll insets, this scroll indicator, when it's not at the top, as you can notice, the pull down doesn't actually show, which makes sense, right? We only want to tell a user to pull down when they're right here, because we're basically letting them know there's actually more messages to, that we can fetch for them. So this is really what we're trying to convey with this. And we need a logic that actually allows us to be able to know when the user is scrolling. We want to be able to know when they scroll to the top and when they're not at the top. And there's actually a very easy way for us to do that in UIKit. Thankfully, UI collection views, and I'm going to jump back into Xcode full mode. Thankfully, our UI collection view that we declared here, this messages collection view, UI collection views in general have a UI scroll view inside of them. And as you can imagine, that's exactly what actually allows us to be able to, scroll the collection view. So we can actually override a UI scroll view delegate method. So I'm going to scroll down here and actually let's rename this from UI table view to UI collection view, because we already migrated out of that. So inside of our extension here, we can actually just go right ahead and extend the scroll view, or, override the scroll view. And I'm just going to say scroll view did scroll. So again, the UI scroll view, which is the collection view equivalent of SwiftUI scroll view. I'm sure you've used the scroll view components in SwiftUI, but if you're not familiar with UIKit has an equivalent of that, right? Using programmatic, programming or imperative programming. And so this UIKit scroll view actually has this delegate method that essentially lets us know when the user is actually scrolling. And we can go right ahead and actually have a print statement in here just to see what this does. So by overriding or by just subscribing, conforming to this scroll view did scroll delegates, and I'm going to go right ahead and run it. And we don't have to manually conform to this. I mean, we don't have to manually say view controller, the scroll view delegate is XYZ, because again, messages or the message collection view, the UI collection view inherits naturally from a scroll view. So if we jump into our project and let's start scrolling, look at that. As you can see, the print statement starts to fire. So we actually know when we're scrolling. This, scroll view did scroll method would allow us to know that. And there's a bunch of other methods in UI scroll view delegates method that actually conveys a lot of information about, for example, when you're accelerating or when you're decelerating, when the scrolling has stopped. But I think scroll view did scroll would do the job for us. So what do we need to know? Essentially, we want to be able to know if we scroll all the way to the top, right? That's the only time we want to show this pull down HUD view. So how are we going to do that? Well, pretty simple. We could use the scroll view content offset. So we could just say something like scroll view, because remember the scroll view did scroll method has the scroll view parameter right here that it's giving us access to. We can just say the content offsets, right? And we could just say if it's .y across the y-axis, across the vertical axis, we can just say if it's less than or equals to 0. Let's just put a print statement in here. That means we're essentially at the top. So we could just say collection view is at the top. And let's put an else statement right here. And if it's not less than or equals to 0, we know the collection view is not at the top. So we're going to say collection view is not at the top. And we can go ahead and actually also print, this content offset. So I'm just going to copy this and just, actually, I don't need to copy it. I could just use some string interpolation, and I could just say scroll view.content.y, content offset.y, just so we could see, the print statement actually show where we're at when we're scrolling. So let's go right ahead and let us run our project in the simulator, and let's see what this bad boy actually prints out for us when we're scrolling inside of our chat room. So I'm going to filter for that. Let me jump into Xcode. Let's jump to our simulator and look at that. So it says collection view is not at the top. The content offset, the Y offset right now is at 200 points, right? Look at that. When we scroll down, you see the points increases, right? When we scroll up, watch as the point decreases. You notice that? It's not at the top, but when we scroll up all the way at the top, somewhere there's a 0. right? And when we scroll down, the content offset increases. So with this logic, we can actually know when we're at the top of our screen or of our collection view of our list. So which is perfect. So all we need to do now is we just change the alpha of our pull down hot view. So I'm going to scroll the way up here. This pull down hot view, we can just change, let's see. All we got to do is just change the alpha to 0. So the alpha is basically what's going to show if it's visible or not. So I'm just going to say pull down alpha, button.alpha is 0. So upon initialization, when this anonymous is set up, we're setting it to be invincible, so the user can't see it. So the user can only see it. We're going to change this alpha now inside of this scroll view did scroll method. So all we're going to do inside of here now is just say pull down odd view.alpha is going to be equals to, let's see, whenever we're at the top, it's 1. And whenever we're at the bottom, we're just going to go right ahead and say it's 0. Right? Or whenever we're not at the top. So let's go right ahead and run our project. And you're going to notice that pull down odd view doesn't actually show up until we get to the top of our chat room screen or the last message. And so, I mean the first message here, not the last message at the bottom. So let's scroll. Look at that. It shows up, right? When we scroll away, it disappears. We scroll, it scrolls up. Let's pull down. It disappears. Why does it disappear? Because our scroll content offset, right, is now greater than 0, which is perfect. Let's scroll all the way up. Look at that. It shows up. So this is just a nice little touch that I decided to add to this chat application because I think, it's pretty nice to be able to let a user know that there's still more messages for them to paginate for. And so we can keep scrolling down and keep pulling down. Keep pulling down. And let's see what happens when we get to the actual first item inside of our messages. Oh, look at that, guys. Looks like we have a bug. As you can tell, when we get to the actual first message, which is this message right here, this admin message that is actually fired when a channel is created, the pull down odd view is still showing. Obviously, we don't want that, right? In the completed version of the project, that's actually not the case. If I scroll all the way to the first item inside of this my besties channel, look at that, the pull down odd view doesn't actually show up. So how do we fix that, guys? And let's think. So the solution obviously is we need to be able to know when there's no more messages to be paginated for. And the way for us to know that actually is to somehow fetch the first message inside of our chat room view model, inside of our chat room, channel. So for example, let's say we're inside of this channel. I'm inside of channel messages in my Firebase console. Let's say I'm inside of this channel with this channel ID. I need to be able to know what's the actual first message, right? So that way when I'm paginating, let's say I paginate like 12, a dozen messages by each pagination fetch. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say this is 12. I stop here. I do it again. And then when I get here, I need to be able to compare it and say, hey, this last cursor, this last item, is it the actual first item or is it the only item left inside of our chat room? Is that all? Have we fetched everything? And if that is true, then of course we no longer want to show this pull down odd view, right? Like we're showing right now. So we're going to fix that pretty quickly. And I believe the solution is we can just jump into our message service and write out a new function that is going to actually fetch the first message inside of a chat room. And we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to Command Shift and O, go into message service. And now inside of message service, what do we want to do? So let's go right ahead and actually just create another function. And I'm going to default this really quickly so I can stop seeing this string. Yep. All right, so let's go right ahead and create another method besides the get historical messages method. And this method is going to be responsible for getting, again, the first message inside of a channel. That way we can know when we're actually done fetching all the messages that belongs to a channel. So I'm going to go ahead and say static func, and I'm just going to say get first message. And let's just say in channel, we're going to use channel item as usual. And we're just going to run a completion block on that bad boy as usual. And it's escaping because, as you know, we're making a networking request. And I'm going to pass in a message item. This time around, let's not even bother using the messaging node because remember, we're not paginating here. We're just fetching an individual message. Okay, let's go right ahead and actually just fetch this message. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say Firebase constants. And I'm going to do a message ref, which goes to the messages node. And I'm going to do child. The child is going to be channel.id, right? And now let's just say the query limited to, so we could just get the last one, and or actually not the last, the first. Query limited to first item. So we're getting the first item. Again, we're going to our Firebase node. We're getting, for example, in the case of this channel, we're getting just this first one right here. We're saying, okay, give me this one. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm just using that as an example, by the way, guys. Just for clarity's sake. Now that we've done that, let's go right ahead and just observe single events. And with observe single event, we just want to listen to it once. We don't want it to we don't want to subscribe to it forever. And I'm going to say dot value and just, return snapshot. Let's see, what do we want here? Error. Let's go right ahead and grab this print statement, and I'm just going to paste it here. And for print statement, I'm just going to say fail to get first message for channel name. That looks pretty good to me. And what do we want to do now? Well, let's go right ahead and actually decode our dictionary. So once we're inside of this node, for example, once we're inside of this channels node and we've fetched, we're fetching the first message, all we got to do is, we know it's a key value pair. This is the key. The key is the channel ID, and the value is a dictionary of key value pairs. So you have dictionary of key value, key value, key value. So all we got to do is just, let's decode that right now. And we're just going to say God, I can't spell guard. God let dictionary is going to be our snapshot dot value. Okay, and I know the snapshot dot value is going to be a string as the key, and the type of the value is any. And let us go right ahead and return out of scope if for whatever reason we don't get that type of data. So now let's go dictionary for each key value pair. So essentially, let's think for a second here. Yeah, for each key value pair, all we're doing now is we're saying, let us get the message dictionary, because this is the actual message dictionary now. We're going to say message dict, and the message dictionary is going to be what? It's going to be, let's see, snapshot.value, not the values, .value. It's going to be of type string, to type any again, and we're going to return out of the scope if we're unable to get that specific data. And now I'm just going to say let first message is equals to message item, and the ID is just going to be the key, this key right here, that's the ID, and the is group chat is going to be channel dot is group chat, and the dictionary is going to be what? The dictionary is going to be message dictionary that we just created right here. And let's go right ahead and do this message sender setup thing as well. So I'm going to scroll way up here, copy this message sender logic that actually allows us to know who sent this message. And I'm just going to paste this right below our message dictionary, take this message sender, convert this first message to, a variable. And I'm just going to say first message dot sender is equals to our message sender. And let's go right ahead and return this to whoever is calling this get first message method. And I'm just going to return the first message. All right, let's see. We're getting a bunch of errors here, and what are we doing wrong? We're observing single events of value. We have our snapshot. We have our dictionary, and we're iterating through our dictionary, getting the keys and the values. And I think we have everything. Oh, this is yelling that there is no message. Oh, yeah. Let's put the message sender. This is debugging live, guys. Let's put the message sender right below the first message. So it's going to be first message owner UID. And that should fix our error. Awesome. So now with our get first message method done, let's jump into our chat room view model, and let's actually use that get first message method to get the first message that, belongs to a channel. So right below the get messages method, let's go right ahead and create another private function. And we're just going to say get first message, and get first message is just going to use message service get first message method, message service that get first message in channel. And the completion is going to return us the actual first message that belongs to a channel. And let's go right ahead and, throw in a capture list of weak self. So with that set up, all I want to do now is, what do I want to do with this first message now? Well, obviously I want to store it somewhere, right? Because I don't want to be fetching this a bunch of times inside of a specific channel. So I'm just going to go right ahead and store it inside of our chat room view model. So long as our chat room view model leaves, I want us to be able to know what the first message for that specific channel is. So I'm going to go right up here, and I'm just going to create a private property, private var. It doesn't need to be a published property. And I'm just going to say the first message is of type message item, and it's optional. Okay, it's optional because we don't know it until we actually first fetch it. So I'm just making that easy for us. Let's scroll all the way back down to our get first message method now. And all I'm just going to say is I'm going to say self, the class property of get first message or first message is equals to this first message right here that we're getting back from our message service. I'm going to pass that right here. So where do we want to call this get first message method? That's the real question now, boys. And I think the simplest way for us to honestly just do this is to actually just call this inside of our get messages method. And here's what I mean. So we already have this get messages method. All we got to do is just like, let's just go up here and let's just say something like if, let's see, self.current page is equals to nil. This means this is our initial fetch. If that's equals to nil, I would like for us to get first messages, the first message that belongs to a channel. And this should only be firing once. I'm going to do self. And let's go right ahead and run our project. And let's see, everything should compile as expected. But we're not done yet because we want to use this first message to handle showing or hiding that, pull down progress HUD or that pull down HUD. And okay, everything's compiling. Great. That's awesome. So where do we want to use this, this first message now that we have inside of our chat room view model? Well, pretty simply, we could use it to determine if a chat room screen is actually paginatable. What I mean by that is we want to use it to determine, is there even more messages for us to fetch by pulling down? And the way to do that is we could just go ahead and create a computer property, guys. We can just do something like var is paginatable is a Boolean. And how are we going to know if a chat room screen is paginatable or if there's any more pagination left? All we're going to say is current page. If the current page is not equals to the first message.id, then that means there's still more stuff left to paginate. Again, let me explain that pretty quickly. All we're doing is we're going into our chat, our channel messages node. And by the time we get to the last item, in this case, this NUZ, right? We're saying, okay, this is the first message. We'll first fetch this first. And we're saying if the current page, AKA the last cursor or whatever you're calling it on your side, if that current page or last cursor is equals to the first message that is inside of a chat room, there's really nothing else for us to paginate, right? Because we've already paginated all the messages. So with this logic now, we can actually go right ahead and, actually guard and show and actually show or not show this, this message list controller pull down HUD view. So now instead of message list controller, I'm going to change this logic slightly. For me to show it, I'm going to say view model dot is paginatable. not is paginatable. Yep, not is paginating. Remember, those are two different things. And if it is paginatable, we're going to show it when the user is at the top of the screen. If it is not paginatable, meaning we've completely fetched all the messages that's inside of a chat room screen, then there's nothing for us to show or for us to pull down. So let's go right ahead, run our project now again, and let's see what happens. If this pull down odd view still shows up, then we're gonna know what's popping. So let's jump in here and let's go in here. Right now we should be fetching the first message. Actually, I'm sorry guys, I wanted to show you guys. Let's actually print this first message here. So let me jump into this first message. Let us put a quick print statement here just to make sure we're actually getting the first message. So I'm going to say get first message, and all I want is just a first message.id. First message.id. Go ahead and rerun our project in the simulator. Let's actually make sure that we're getting the first message. So now we have that. Let's jump in here. Let's go right in here and let's see. This is not showing get first message. Oh yeah, we're still filtering for this. I'm sorry. We're going to exit out of the chat room. Remove this. Go back in the chat room. Look at that. Get first message. This is the first message. This is awesome, right? Okay, so we know we're getting the first message. Now let's see if this HUD view will stop showing up when we've actually fetched all the messages that belong to a chat room screen. So let's keep scrolling. Let's keep scrolling. Again, you can tell this is a pretty large data set, right? Let's keep scrolling. We scroll all the way up here. We get more. We pull down. We pull down. We're almost done. Look at that. It no longer shows up. You notice? There's no more pull down, which is awesome, right? Because there's nothing else to prompt the user to pull down on. And let's see if if the same is true for when a chat room is not even paginatable. Like if there's not even anything to paginate, meaning all the data is fetched in the first time. Look at this, pull down. If we pull down, yeah, that seems to be working, guys. So that's pretty awesome. The one last thing I want us to quickly, handle before we wrap up this episode, I know it's a little bit long, is I would like for us to actually, use this as paginatable to guard against our get messages. So instead of calling the get messages directly inside of message list controller, let's make this a private function. And let us actually create a publicly accessible function that the message list controller can use to actually paginate for more messages. And I'm just going to call it paginate for more messages, or load more messages, paginate more messages. And what is paginate more messages going to do? Well, it's just going to call get messages, to be honest. And I think I'm going to change this from get messages to get historical messages, right? Because I think that sounds much more accurate. You'll get in the older messages and get historical messages. But I want to hide a guard statement here. I only want to, paginate for more messages if the message is if the channel is even paginatable. So I'm going to say guard is paginatable, not is paginating. Again, remember, those are two different things. If it is not, paginatable, all I'm just going to say is paginating is equals to false. And what else? Let us return out of the scope. So return, and I think that's pretty much all that we need to do. So the other thing is we need to go fix this error, this get historical messages. Now we need to call it inside of our listen function. I'm going to scroll way up here. So we have this channel that all members fetched. We're going to call get historical messages here now. So let's go right ahead and go into our message list controller and fix this. I'm going to remove this print statements inside of our scroll view did scroll method. And I'm going to scroll all the way up here. I'm going to expand Xcode all the way. And instead of get messages, I'm going to call, paginate more messages. Okay, let's go right ahead and run our project. Everything should be good to go. And let us handle one final thing. Actually, we have an error here. Okay, it says get messages is not a thing. Oh, yeah. So here we need to call get historical messages. That looks pretty good. Let's run our project. Everything should be good to go. I'm not even going to bother demoing it. I think you guys could do that yourself. I just want us to handle the last bit for this episode so we can wrap up. And everything seems to be working fine. And one last bit I want us to do is, remember at the beginning of the episode, I mentioned that we're actually unable to get the latest messages for a channel anymore. And I could demo that really quickly for you guys. So, we're inside of this massive channel that has a lot of messages. If we send a new message, let me just say latest message, hit that send button. Right? Notice it doesn't come through in our channel. But if we go out of our channel, we actually get it inside of our channel tab screen. Could you guys guess why that is? If you're familiar with Firebase, I'm sure you already know what's going on. So inside of our message service, we're using this observe single event observer. So observe single event is exactly what it sounds like. It's only going to observe it once. It's only going to fetch it once. And we're doing the same thing in this get first message method. Inside of this, get historical message method, look at it. We're saying query that observes single events. So it's actually not going to listen for any changes inside of our channel, right? So for example, when we send in a new message inside of this channel when we've already fetched it, so notice when we go back into the channel, it gets it, right? Because now it's an historical message. But if we send in a new event or a new channel, a new message, it's actually not going to fetch it because it's already fetched it. It's already done. You just got the data. So we need to set up another listener that actually allows us to be able to actively listen for when there's a new message coming into our channel. And I'm going to go right ahead and do that down here. And we're going to wrap up this episode after that. So inside of our message service, let us create another function and let's just call it listen for static func, listen for, I think, messages. Or listen for new messages. And so what are we listening for new messages? And let's use the same signature. We're going to say in channel, which is of type channel item. And what else do we want to do? Let's just use a completion block as always. And I'm going to go ahead and copy what we're doing inside of our get first messages method, because it's exactly the same thing. We're just returning a singular message, whatever latest message comes through into our channel. And so what do we want to do here? Well, for the listen, all we're going to do is we're going to say, let's see, we're going to say Firebase. Actually, we're going to be using the same path. So let me go ahead and paste that here, channel.id. And all we're going to do now is we're going to observe instead of listen, instead of observe single events, right? And as you can see, your block will be triggered for the initial data. And again, whenever the data changes, which is awesome. So let's go right ahead and say value, and then we have our snapshot. And again, feel free to read up on, Firebase documentation on a lot of this Firebase method. It's pretty much available on your websites, and there's a lot of tutorials on this as well online. So let's continue. So we have our stuff. Let's go right ahead and create a dictionary. I'm just going to copy this dictionary up here to save us some time. We know it's going to be a dictionary of key value pair. And what do we want? Actually, let's make this child added and not just value. I'm just going to say child added. So we have our dictionary, and I'm going to create this message. I'm just going to grab this, paste it under our dictionary. But instead of first message, I'm just going to call it new message, because this is a new message that is coming into our channel when we've already been in the channel. And so we have our new message, and let's see, I want the message sender. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, paste that here. And actually, you know what? Let's paste that right underneath the new message. I'm doing a lot of copy pasting, but just hang in there. And I'm just going to say new message dot message sender dot sender is equals to message sender. So we have a couple of errors here. The first thing is there's no such thing as key, which is true. We're going to use the snapshot.key instead. Okay, so we have a snapshot.key for our message dictionary. It's just called dictionary now. We could change this to message dictionary instead of just dictionary. And we have a couple of things here. This is no longer first message. This is new message. This is our message sender property here. And with that, I think we have all that we need. I'm just going to go right ahead and throw that completion block. And I'm just going to say, pass back the new message into whoever was calling this listen for new messages method. So this is an active observer. Unlike, the get first message method and the get historical message method, this listen for new message is exactly what it says. It's actually going to actively listen for whenever there's a new message that comes into our channel. And let's go right ahead and actually do that. Let's jump back into our chat room view model. And I'm going to scroll all the way to where we actually are dealing with these, pagination logic here. And underneath the get first message, I'm going to go right ahead and create another message and create another, function. I'm actually just going to copy this, paste it, and I'm going to call this function. What's a good name, guys? I think something like, listen for new messages is a good name. I'm just going to go ahead and say listen for new messages. And this is just going to be the listen for new messages method. So it's going to be listen for new messages. I'm going to command and Z that. It's just listen for new messages. And we're no longer doing the self.message thing. We're not going to do that here, guys. Let's remove that. This is new message, not first message. Okay, so we have this. What do we want to do with the new message when it comes through? All we want to do is just say self.message items or messages.append new message. But this time around, you notice we're using append here and not insert. And again, the reason we're using append here is because we want to add it as the last item, not as the first item. We're inserting because we want to insert them in front, and we're appending because we want to push them to the back. So that's awesome. And so we're going to append them to our message. And let's just also go right ahead and scroll to the bottom. So I'm just going to say self.scroll to the bottom. Method animated. No, let's just make this false. And let's go right ahead and run our project now, and let's see what happens. So we should be able to get latest messages inside of our channel while also paginating our channel at the same time, which is pretty awesome, guys. Let's jump into our channel tab screen, go right in here. That seems to be working. And let us keep scrolling. Let's keep scrolling. Let's pull down. Everything seems to be working. Okay, let's enter a new message now. I'm just going to go ahead and say, new message. What's up? Hit that send button. Oh, that's not coming true. Oh, yeah, guys, we forgot to call the method. I'm sorry. So right in here, where do we want to call this listen for new messages method? And I think we're just going to call it right here, right below the get historical messages method. Oh, actually, no, not here. Not get or channel members. Let's call it inside of the get historical messages method. And so we have this, if statement here where we're saying if it's the initial pool, essentially, if it's the initial data pool, right, then we're getting the first message. So same thing. Let's just call it here as well. Let's just say get listen for new messages. And let's go ahead and run our project now. Feel free to refactor these methods, guys. And also, we're going to refactor our chat room view model pretty soon in a couple of episodes. But for now, let's continue with our business. Let's jump right in here. And let's see. So we have new message. What's up? Let's say another one. Let's hit that send button. Look at that, guys. What's up? Hit that send button. It says what's up. And if we keep scrolling, everything seems to be working as expected. And let's see. Let's paginate for more. I feel like there's something going on here. I feel like there's something nefarious going on here that I'm missing. Let's see. That feels like it's fetching more than one. Anyways, guys, yeah, there's something going on here. Anyways, guys, I am going to go right ahead and actually comment out this listen for new messages method for now. In the next episode, we are going to fix this bug that, that we're just observing right now because there's something shady going on in here. It's repeating, it's duplicating messages. Anyways, we're going to fix that in the next episode. For now, thank you for watching as always, guys. We were able to show up this odd view. And in the next episode, we're going to fix the listen for new messages method. And I'll see you guys in that episode. Peace.